in front of you. Thank you for that. And Manager Mike, I'll throw that to you.
So in front of council is a memo from the Economic Development Officer, Mr. McGraw, outlining the history of an application that was received for funding under Affordable Unit Program. The brief history, and I'll summarize it, Mr. McGraw can answer any other questions council may have, is that the number company, which I'll call the builder, got his building permit to erect a 21-unit apartment building, and after starting it, decided he wanted to change it to include 10 affordable units. He asked for funding under our program and a return of the building permit fee, which is allowed for affordable units. Unfortunately, our current program would require the individual to apply and get approved before they break ground. So what is happening is the developer or the builder has asked the council consider, I guess, a waiver of that part of the program as it applies to him, and a motion to return the building permit money that he has paid. So we know that we are looking at the program. We have had one meeting with representatives of the Affordable Housing Working Group, and there's certainly going to be some modifications recommended, within a fairly short period of time to that program. However, until that process is done, we believe that council should consider, instead of just modifying the program for everybody right now, considering the one-off request and moving forward. We think they will be minimal in number, but to make piecemeal modifications to your program doesn't seem to make much sense. So Mr. McGraw has outlined the other work that would have to be done by this builder, because there's still some matters, hoops that the individual would have to jump through. But I understand the issue for tonight was, to give the background on how this went through, identify the issue, which is application date, and to find out whether council wanted to consider at its next meeting, as I say, a motion to waive the application date for this application and to return the building permit fee.
All right, thank you, Manager Noel. I should note too, and I apologize to Paul, Economic Development Officer Paul McGraw is here. If anyone has any questions, he is hands-on with this particular file. Any questions, Councillor Duplessis?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I guess just a question, if you can speak to the rationale of the don't break ground before funding is approved. Is that a checks and balance to signify that what's the intention of those checks and balance?
To the chair, through to Councillor Duplessis. When we designed this program 4 years ago, I believe, the idea behind getting an approved application was twofold. First of all, to allow us budgeting prowess to be able to see, judge what we have budgeted and what we have committed, and then to ensure that the project was going to move forward. There are a lot of conditions when it comes to the affordable housing programs of both the federal government and the provincial government. So we wanted to ensure that we were the first one there, but we wanted to also make sure that that the intent of the program, the council's intent, was addressed. So since then, we have seen that that has caused some issues, and as the city manager has mentioned, we are looking at some modifications to the program, and certainly from my perspective, one of those modifications will be a signed application as opposed to an approved application, because it serves all of the purposes, all of the intents that we originally have. I think you have to realize that these programs were completely new. Housing was a completely new issue when it comes to our department, and we've made modifications to the downtown program, minor ones. We've made modifications already to the affordable program, and so it was a learning curve, basically. How do we balance our fiscal responsibility to council and to the citizens, and try to make sure that the development takes place? These were the metrics that we used. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, yes, it does. And then I guess clarification on the project, the foundation is set for the building? Is that the extent of the ground being broken?
Again, through to Councillor Duplessis, right now, the roof's on. I don't know what the interior work is, the interior work that's been done. I do know that the walls are up, roof's on, some of the windows are on, some of the doors are on. I make a regular tour of the projects we have underway, just to sort of get a progress in my head, but that's where we are now.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Councillor Duplessis. Any other questions? We need a motion to send that up as well?
If I could just clarify
Sir.
that the motion would be to send it up and with a report as to whether to grant the request of the applicant. If you could specify that, that would be great.
All right, in the spirit of that, Councillor Ross Robinson and seconded by Councillor Duplessis. All in favor of that? All right, that motion is carried, and that takes us to the end of our public.
Motion carries. Next, we have two motions regarding the Affordable Housing Grant Program. Do I have a member of council willing to make that motion? Councillor Ross Robinson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that the application of 724007 NB Limited for the funding under the Affordable Housing Grant Program be exempted from any program conditions requiring approval of an application prior to the start of construction.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Duplessis. On the question. Councillor Duplessis.
Yeah, I just speak in favor of it, and I think it's imperative that we take these steps and we show flexibility. Obviously, due diligence has to be at the forefront, but I think through the first project and to where he's at now, it's very clear that due diligence has been taken care of. And like I say, we need to show some flexibility in order to get these units built, and happy to see them getting built. And hopefully these next two motions go through and we can make that easier and we can do our part in making that happen.
Thanks, Councillor Duplessis. I would just build on that as well to speak on the motion. We know that we have a housing crisis in this community, that we just can't seem to build enough of it fast enough, and in particular, affordable housing units. And within that, this is not just, what's in front of us is not just affordable housing units, but potentially social housing units. So if the building moves forward, there'll be 21 units. All of them will be affordable units, and 10 of them will be new social housing units. That will be funded by the Department of Social Development for 20 years. And we have a waiting list for social housing in this community in the hundreds. And so even 10 will make a big difference. And this will be on a property by a developer where there's already been one of these buildings that's just about to open. And in fact, the second one is well on the way, which is to the point of this motion. It's important that we be flexible, in my opinion. Again, due diligence, but that we be flexible in working with developers and other levels of government. And there's a lot of hoop jumping for people who are in this development of affordable housing, and they've got to go between all the levels of government who are trying to help out. And sometimes we need to get out of our own way and have that flexibility to ultimately get the housing built for the most vulnerable people in our community. And that's what these motions are about tonight. So I'm pleased to be supporting the motions and hope they'll go through. And seeing nothing further, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And on to the second motion, Councillor Duplessis, we'll be back to you if you don't mind.
I move that
Oh,
I move
it's
that,
you.
yeah.
I'm
it
sorry.
does better.
Sorry. Councillor Ross
Take
Robinson.
team.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's,
Anyway, I second it.
So,
Tag team,
apologies.
back again. I move that upon 724007 NB Limited being approved for a city affordable housing grant, the city shall provide said company with $15,500, representing the amount paid for building permit for a 21-unit apartment complex on Wellington Street in Miramichi.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Ross Robinson. On the question, just for clarity, this is regarding the reimbursement of the permit, but that would be in addition to the $10,000 per unit that would come through the program.
That's correct. The current building bylaw allows for a waiver of this building permit fee, but since the applicant started and got his building permit, he didn't get the waiver, so this is a way to get the money to him in addition to the $10,000 per unit.
Excellent, thank you. Again, showing ways of being flexible to get the housing built in the community that we need. Seeing nothing further, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.